Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you're having a fantastic day. As always, shout out to the 19. We're going to talk a little basketball. Actual basketball. Not a lot of the drama that we get to talk about. You know there's more of that coming, but I wanted to actually talk about basketball. Something that I've alluded to in previous videos, but I wanted to do a little bit more of a deep dive for you regarding the Indiana Fever and their free agency signings. As you can see right here, looks pretty cool, right? 5 players in the top 30 for scoring in 2024 will be on the 2025 Indiana Fever, and most likely, barring some unforeseen changes to the roster or injuries, whatever, matchups, that is probably the projected starting 5 right there. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Natasha Howard, Dewanna Bonner, Aaliyah Boston, all in the top 5. I'll save my Aaliyah Boston is only ahead of Lexi Hull in all of Unrivaled. I'll save that discussion for another video. But last year in the WNBA, here are your top 5 scorers between 14 and 19.2 points per game. Some really balanced scoring. All 5 starters well into double digits for their averages. But is that always a good thing? Is that always a good thing in basketball? So let's take a look at this. I want to show you some stuff that we've talked about. Are there enough shots to go around? Well, are there? Because I'm going to show you some eye-popping numbers. Look, first you have shots per game last year. Seattle Storm were number 1, 71.3. So that's fewer than 3 shots per game ahead of Indiana, who was 5th. And I think we all know if Indiana had started, say, the way they started playing a little before the All-Star break, little, more of that, give Caitlin the ball, play up-tempo, and just go with it, they probably would have led the league, I'm sure. So let's say they even popped that up to 72 and led the league with 72 shots a game. But let's take a look at that team. Here are your starters last year, 2024. Caitlin Clark, 14.5. Kelsey Mitchell, 15.1. Aaliyah Boston, just over 11. Melissa Smith, just under 9. Lexi Hull, 4. Starting 5 took 53.6 of those 68.5 shots last year. Look at our projected starters for 2025. Those points come from doing something, right? That's called shooting. Again, Mitchell, Clark, and Boston, you know the number, but now we've added Dewanna Bonner, 12.8, almost 13 shots a game. Big difference, right? Natasha Howard took more shots per game than Kelsey Mitchell, folks. So she's actually number 1 on this team in shots per game last year. Starting 5, 68.9. Now, keep that in mind. 68.9 for the starting 5 is more than 15 shots per game over last year's starting 5, and it's more than the Indiana Fever average. This would have been, 2nd or 3rd in the league for a team, and this is just the starting 5. Okay? That is a huge jump, over 15 shots more per game from your new starting 5 this year. So here you go. Here's look at it. 2024, 53.9. All right, exactly 15. 2025, 68.9, which is more than the Fever team averaged in 2024. That is a huge difference. And yes, it could be a positive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is, because it means a lot of adjustments have to be made, because it's not even saying, oh, these players are selfish. It's saying the way these players play and what they expect from themselves. Are there enough shots in a game to satisfy all of them? Because, yeah, we're only human, and that does happen. It is rare, and that's why teams who do it, like, sorry for mentioning it for those who don't like them, the Eagles this season, one of those rare teams where they put all the personal stuff aside that, maybe this player should have thought could have done this or that, whatever. They put that all aside, and it was all about, we want to win a Super Bowl. So if the Indiana Fever can figure that out and make that the main thing, as it said, and say, hey, it's all about winning a title, then they've got a lot of talent to do it with. But again, 2024, the team 68.5, 2025, the starters 68.5, which also doesn't factor in this, right? Sophie Cunningham, not in that starting five. She shoots more than any player off of last year's bench. Fag Bentley was tops off the bench with 5.3. Sophie took 6 shots a game. But by the way, that was a down number. She didn't get the minutes last year for some reason with Phoenix, despite them not being very good. Maybe they should have played her as much as they did the previous years. But you can see the 2 prior years, she was up at 8.7 and 9.5 shots per game. Okay, and we could go deeper and deeper and talk about the bench. My point, I think I've clearly made, is a lot more shots. This roster is used to taking a lot more shots than last year's roster. So where are all those shots going to come from? Because two things I think have to happen is the team has to run a lot, and there are going to be shot sacrifices because I don't know that you can run enough. You know, I said that, like, in general, that's what works. And I talked about that before, that they can take a lot more shots. But this is a big, big increase, as you're seeing when we actually look at the numbers. Caitlin Clark, that's what worries me, is that the shots for the others will come at the expense of Caitlin Clark. And the reason I say that is because, one, we all know what a great passer she is. But two, if you watch the Fever all season long, until she got really, really comfortable and started saying, hey, I have to play my way for us to win games, and she started taking over and they started playing more up-tempo despite sides not wanting to do that, she was early on deferring a lot. She was passing up a lot of shots. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but her shots per game to get up to that 14 plus, that increased dramatically as the season went along. She took a lot more shots per game the second half of the season than she did the first. But the fact that she would defer, and I think it was also part, like, you know, she's coming in, she's a rookie, or, you know, everything that went around involved in that. She probably was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to show my teammates I'm not selfish. I'm not going to shoot very much. I'm going to get them the ball, make them happy, and then sort of start easing into my game. So we know with her mentality, she could go back to deferring more, shooting less, but I don't think that is what makes the team better. So that's going to be interesting. And I have Aaliyah Boston. Why do I have Aaliyah Boston? Because, as I've said before, in looking at this offense, if it does what, in my opinion, I think it should do, but I think a lot of others feel that same way, and that is more up-tempo, you know, that is more quick play. I don't know that Aaliyah Boston is the type of player that should be getting more shots. She should probably be getting less. I think she becomes a lot more effective as a trailer in a fast break. You know, one of those fast breaks where everyone's getting up court and maybe the layup isn't there, and then the defense is scrambling back and trying to match up to the players already on that end. Aaliyah Boston comes late as a trailer down the lane, receives passes and makes layups, as well as getting layups and open, 12, 15 footers off the pick and roll. I think that is where her shots come from. So Aaliyah Boston may be one that you say, hey, you know what? She needs to shoot less for the team to be better going forward. So, and I think that could actually help the team. Caitlin Clark taking fewer shots, I don't think does help the team. I don't know that Caitlin Clark upping her assists from 8.4 to 11 or 12, but only taking eight shots a game or 9 shots a game instead of 14 or 15. I don't think that helps the team. But we'll see. We will see. I'm just going from basketball experience and what I've seen with the Fever and trying to figure out what this 2025 is going to look like for the team to be successful. Because, again, enough shots to go around. Here are the uh-ohs. Will there be locker room issues if there aren't enough shots to go around? If some of these players taking these shots aren't getting them, or, significant. I mean, if Dewanna Bonner drops from, 15 plus to 9 or 10, how long does she say, I'm sorry, Dewanna Bonner was at 12.8. But if she drops to 9 or 10, or Natasha Howard, who's at 15 plus, drops to 8, 9, or 10, how long does she stay happy? Now, Caitlin Clark, if she drops to 8, 9, or 10, we'll probably never, ever see it from the outside that she's unhappy, but that doesn't mean that she won't be unhappy. if Aaliyah Boston, who was a #1 pick and an all-star the last 2 years and was sort of the focus of the offense the year before Caitlin Clark, if she doesn't get her shots, if she becomes basically the Dennis Rodman of the offense, in other words, picking up the rebound and the second chance points and the occasional pick and roll, how long is she going to be happy? And is she going to dig deep and do the other things that need to be done in order to help the team? If Sophie Cunningham arrives and she's playing 10, 15 minutes a game and taking 3 or 4 shots, how long is she happy? Right? You see where I'm going with this. So they're only human. These are the types of things that do tear apart teams. This isn't just some, doom and gloom, oh no, and everyone else is like, no, it's so great, everything's going to be fine. Doesn't always work that way in sports. Doesn't always work that way. And then, of course, the other one, I say, will they play up-tempo or will White be White? And what I mean by that is White is not a natural. She's saying all the right things about this team being an up-tempo team. Will we see it, though? Because that's not really Stephanie White's thing. Not that she can't or won't. That's my point. But, a lot of times coaches, players, whatever it is, they fall back into their comfort zone, especially if there are struggles. So, because that's it. If they play more half court, then you're talking about even fewer shots per game, which could exacerbate the whole issue with not enough shots to go around. So it's going to be interesting to see if the decisions White makes, especially with players like Boston. Again, don't get upset with me for Aaliyah Boston fans. I like Aaliyah. I'm just starting to wonder, as I have seen this team put together, if she's not the odd player out in terms of style fit. That is not a knock on Aaliyah Boston. That's just the way it is sometimes with certain teams. I think this was the last one I had. Yeah. So anyway, I just kind of want to do a deep dive and let you see the numbers because it's a lot, it's a lot more significant than I thought in terms of the gap from 2024 to 2025. So for me, it's going to be really interesting to see what this team does this season, how they play. Will White be able to make, here's my big question. Will she make adjustments that are good for the team but might not be popular? I think that's the biggest thing for me. And one more shout out to Philly. I'll give kudos to Nick Sirianni. I know no one else knows it because it was local sports media. I mean, there were some national media talking about it that hates everything Philly, but there was a lot of local sports media when the Eagles started 2-2. They wanted Nick's on a pike. They wanted him out and gone at 2-2. And Nick, he stuck with what he thought was right and wasn't necessarily popular, got a lot of grief for it, and now those same people are all celebrating their Eagles Super Bowl title. So we'll see if Steph White has that in her as well. I mean, that's the type of thing you never know until you get to that situation is, can she make that right call? Can she bench Aaliyah Boston and make her a super sub if that is what works for the team in terms of how they play and their fit? If we see that Aaliyah Boston not in is what gets the team into that next gear and they're running and they're creating easy buckets and everyone's getting shots and they're happy, where do we go from there? But I'm going to leave it there because, we could ask a million questions on this, but I just want to kind of give you my breakdown of what I think could be a problem and why it could be and what the solution might be and all that. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, appreciate you checking out this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. We are crawling so slowly to 11.3 thousand subs. It used to be like a few days there'd be like 1,000 and more, but hey, WNBA off season, I got to start dropping other sports videos. We'll see what happens, but appreciate all your support. I will talk to you later.